Red-shouldered hawk at the nest. Red-shouldered hawks they're virtually extinct in Ontario. They're not nearly as common as red-tails are in great shape everywhere, good shape everywhere. It's almost impossible if you're paying attention to do a drive around the outskirts of Toronto and not see a red-tail. And on the way up north or from anywhere in Ontario highways, you'll likely see a red-tailed hawk. I see one almost every day when we go for a hike from our house on Salt Spring Island. But red-shoulders, they eat a lot of snakes and things, and snakes have gone down because of pesticides, snakes and frogs. So this is a pretty good picture of a hawk coming in for a landing, a red-shouldered. It's got a snake, a garter snake in its claws. To my surprise a little bit, I've got a pretty good awareness of light and shade in this picture. Unlike the flatness of the shading of the rabbit and the grosbeaks, this has got an awareness of light and shade, and especially the chicks being partly shaded by the adult and yet with the light shining on them. The background is not unlike the way I paint forest backgrounds now. But my forest backgrounds now, I'm a little more clever at making you think there is a real place that looks like that. But often I work that way and do the little windows looking through the forest toward the end. I don't do the forest all around. That would get way too cluttered. I do just kind of a wall of forest, and I put little windows in at places that I think look good in the composition. The nest, I would say, is, if I was giving the nest marks, art marks, so to speak, I might give it a 5 out of 10 or a 4 out of 10. But at least it has form of a nest, but it doesn't have any air in it. It's really hard to paint a nest, a nest like this, a big bird of prey. This looks like maybe you're doing a school project, making a nest, and you got a big ball of clay or plasticine and poke some sticks into it. That doesn't look like there's openings in it. That's okay. However, I consider this, maybe incorrectly, but I use this as an absolute, it's not necessarily road to Damascus, but a turning point in my whole art, the history of me as an artist. Because I was 18 when I did it, 1948. And I figured bird art had kind of been done anyway. There was Roger Tory Peterson, there was Louis Agassiz Fuertes, there was Walter Weber, who was in Life magazine. Terry Short, my mentor at the Royal Ontario Museum. And they had done everything, and Alan Brooks, and they'd done them very well, and mine wasn't any better. What's the point in going on with that kind of thing? I was a little bit getting that way, but I was still willing to just keep on going. Except by then I was getting in with a whole other social element. One of the guys' name was Chris Aidney. His father was in the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, I believe, and he was a very cultured guy. And he told me at one of these folk song parties, because he was aware that I was an artist and this was the kind of art I was doing. He said, you know, you cannot do real art with a small brush. Art nowadays, 1948, involves a big brush and oil paint, and you slap it on. Okay, well, this is historically exactly true. Think 1948. A group of 7 was all the rage. They used to be rejected, but they were all the rage. And they had thick paint and big brushes, and they slapped on the big color. Van Gogh, Gauguin, all those post-impressionist style, that was what it was. You would go to any art museum that had the stuff that was being painted right then. It was all done with a big brush. There was no realism. Did not exist until Andrew Wyeth came along in 1962 or so. I mean, he was always there, but until he became widely recognized. So Chris Aidney said, you can't do real art with a small brush. So I said, well, I'm a real artist. I am a growing boy. I'm in my late teens. I want to be an artist, so I'll get a big brush and get oil paints, and I'll start doing more painterly, impressionist kind of things.